They said a day would come when the enemies of Africa would be desperate enough to try anything, to invent any paper, to stamp any seal, to write any so-called law, just to bring down the spirit of a free man. That day has come, and it came wrapped in the name of Judge Thomas. They call it an arrest warrant. I call it a piece of paper soaked in arrogance, written in the blood of hypocrisy, and signed with the trembling hand of a coward hiding behind a robe. They believe that because they have built courts with marble floors, because they have filled shelves with books of their laws, because they have created a theater of justice in their language, they can command the sons and daughters of Africa like cattle. They think that their ink can chain my voice, that their signature can bind my spirit, that their summons can make the will of our people collapse. They are wrong, they have always been wrong, they will die wrong. Judge Thomas, let me speak directly to you, because I am not the kind of man who hides behind advisors or whispers my words through lawyers. I have no need for interpreters to soften my words, no need for spokesmen to dilute my truth. My voice is mine, and it carries the weight of millions who have walked through the fire with me. You have issued an arrest warrant for me, and in your mind, that is supposed to mean something. That this paper you signed is supposed to bend my back, lower my head, and force my feet into chains. But you miscalculated. You misread the man you are dealing with. Do you think I am afraid? Tell me, on what grounds do you think fear lives in me? Fear belongs to those who have something to lose that they did not earn. Fear belongs to those whose power was handed to them by others. Fear belongs to those who stand on thrones built on the backs of the poor. But I was not given power. I took responsibility. I was not handed leadership. I answered the call when my people were in danger. Fear is a luxury for men who have never stared death in the eye. I am not one of those men. Do you think that a man who faced down terrorists trained, funded, and armed by the very hands that claimed to bring justice would be moved by a piece of paper with your signature? Do you think that a man who has walked in villages emptied by war, who has looked into the eyes of mothers holding the lifeless bodies of their children, who has stood at the graves of friends, whose only crime was defending their homeland, do you think such a man can be made to tremble because you scratched your pen on a document in a foreign office? You insult not just me, but the very concept of courage. I have stood before tanks, Judge Thomas. I have heard the clatter of machine guns pointed at my chest. I have walked through the dust of explosions that tore through the air like angry gods. I have felt the silence that follows a battle. The heavy, suffocating silence where you count the faces still alive and feel the weight of those who are gone. And in that silence, I did not feel fear. I felt duty. I felt rage at the injustice. I felt the unshakable knowledge that if I did not stand, no one would. No, Judge Thomas, I am not the product of your system. Your system is one of suits and boardrooms, of whispers in corridors, of backroom deals made over wine and cigars. Your system breeds men who have never carried water from a river, who have never planted a seed in dry soil, who have never had to choose between eating and giving their child a meal. I am not that man. I am forged in the dust and sweat of this land. My education was the hunger of my people. My diploma was the liberation of my country. My credentials are the scars on my hands and the resolve in my heart. I am not the result of your education. You think your universities create leaders, but they create servants. Servants polished to look like masters. Men who quote your philosophers but cannot recite the names of the elders who kept their villages alive. I have read your books, yes, but I have also read the sky when the rains were late. I have read the eyes of my soldiers when they returned from the battlefield. I have read the unspoken questions of my people when they wondered if the struggle was worth it. Your schools do not teach that. Your degrees cannot measure it. I am not the pet of your embassies. I do not go to foreign capitals to kneel in gilded halls, to smile for cameras while signing away the lifeblood of my nation. I do not need your aid when your aid is a leash. I do not need your applause when your applause is only for those who obey. You cannot summon me with invitations and promises. You cannot threaten me with isolation, because a man who walks with his people is never alone. I am the son of a people who learned long ago that the law of the oppressor is nothing more than the chain of slavery polished to look like gold. You call it law, we call it control. You call it justice, we call it domination. And we know it well. We know it from the days when colonial governors issued decrees that stole our land. We know it from the days when your courts punished us for speaking our language, for gathering in groups, for daring to dream of independence. You think you have changed because the chains are now written into contracts, because the whips are now economic sanctions, because the prisons are now political pressure. But the nature is the same, Judge Thomas. It is the same hand holding the chain, the same voice giving the order, the same arrogance that believes it can define the limits of our freedom. Do you know why your arrest warrant does not scare me? Because I know it is not about justice. It is about reminding us of our place. The place you think we belong, beneath you, obedient to you, grateful for your crumbs. But that place no longer exists for me, and it no longer exists for Africa. We have burned it. We have torn it from the map of our destiny, and if you try to rebuild it with your courts, your laws, your threats, we will burn it again. You believe that because you have the power to imprison bodies, you have the power to imprison minds. But you cannot cage a mind that has tasted freedom. You cannot shackle a people who have seen the true face of their oppressor. I have seen it, Judge Thomas, and I will never unsee it. My people have seen it, and they will never again walk willingly into the hands that hold their chains. So yes, you can issue your warrant, you can broadcast it to the world, you can wave it like a trophy among your allies, but to me it is nothing but another link in the long chain of colonial arrogance, and I was born to break chains. You sit in your court with your wig, with your books, with your cameras, pretending to hold the world in your hands, but what you hold is a lie. The law you claim to defend is a tool of empire, the empire that raped Africa for centuries and now pretends to teach us morality. You are not a judge, you are an actor in a dying play, performing for an audience that has stopped clapping, pretending the spotlight still shines on you when the generator has already failed. You call me criminal because I do not bow to your orders. You call me dangerous because I speak the language of liberation. You call me a threat because I will not let my people be trampled. But the truth is this: it is you who are afraid. Afraid that the fire you see in Burkina Faso will spread to Mali, to Niger, to Congo, to South Africa, to every corner of this continent until your courts are nothing more than empty rooms collecting dust. I'm afraid that one day your arrest warrants will be laughed at by children who know their history, by leaders who owe you nothing, by nations that have cut the last string of dependence. You think you can use law as a weapon, but this time you have chosen the wrong target. Your law does not walk in our markets. Your law does not drink from our rivers. Your law has no place under our sun. When you write my name on your paper, it carries no weight here. It is a foreign tongue trying to command a language it cannot pronounce. You see, Judge Thomas, power is not in the ink you spill. It is in the people who refuse to obey. And here in Africa, we have reached that point. You talk about human rights. Where were you when your governments were supplying the weapons that slaughtered our children? Where were you when mines owned by your corporations collapsed on African workers? Where were you when puppet leaders stole billions while you smiled and shook their hands? You have the audacity to pretend you are the guardian of justice, but every African knows your court is a wolf in the robes of a priest. Let me tell you what your arrest warrant has done. It has not weakened me. It has not frightened me. It has not silenced me. No, Judge Thomas, it has awakened millions. It has shown them in black and white that the fight we speak of is real, that when an African stands up for his land, for his people, for his dignity, the colonial master will always come knocking with chains. You thought you were humiliating me, but you have revealed yourself. You thought you were isolating me, but you have united my people. You thought you were ending my influence, but you have multiplied it 1,000 times. When the slaves of old escaped the plantations, they were hunted, chained, beaten, and yet they kept running. Today the chains are legal documents, the beatings are sanctions, the hunts are arrest warrants. but the spirit is the same. We will keep running, not away from you, but toward our freedom, toward our destiny, toward the day when no African leader will need to explain to the West why he chose to serve his people. I know your type. You are the kind of man who believes history began when Europe wrote it down. You think your institutions are the pinnacle of civilization. You cannot imagine a world where Africa stands on its own feet. And so when we rise, you panic. You scramble to invent charges, to issue warrants, to intimidate, to divide. You cannot fight us on the battlefield of ideas, so you try to drag us into the courtroom of your making, where the jury speaks your language, where the rules bend to your interests, where the sentence is written before the trial begins. But here is where you miscalculated, Judge Thomas. Africa is no longer a courtroom where you can play God. It is a battlefield where the people are the judges, the witnesses, and the executioners of history's verdict. And their verdict on you is clear. You are guilty. Guilty of arrogance, guilty of hypocrisy, guilty of trying to enslave a continent that has already broken its chains. I will not come to your court. I will not recognize its authority. I will not dignify its hypocrisy by standing in your dock. If you want me, come and get me. Come to the streets of Ouagadougou. Come to the villages where the soil has been fed with the blood of martyrs. Come to the markets where women sell the food their hands have grown. Come to the schools where children shout my name, not because I am perfect, but because I am theirs. Come, Judge Thomas, and see if your paper can protect you from the will of a people who have had enough. You can send your threats. You can send your envoys, you can send your soldiers. We will bury them all in the same ground where we buried the idea that Africa belongs to anyone but Africans. You may control your court, but you do not control our hearts. You may write your laws, but you do not write our destiny. Judge Thomas, your arrest warrant is not a weapon. It is a confession. It is proof that your system is scared, that it is losing, that it cannot stop the tide. You thought you were summoning me, but in truth, you have summoned Africa. And we are here. We are awake, and we will never bow again. So keep your paper, keep your court, keep your titles and your robes. They are relics of a dying order, the last ornaments of a system that has no life left in it. We have no use for them here. We have no use for laws that were never written with our names in mind, for judgments that were carved in stone long before we even spoke a word in your language. You hold these things like they are treasures, but to us they are nothing more than shackles polished until they shine, a golden cage built to make the prisoner forget he is imprisoned. Justice does not wear wigs. The wigs you wear in your courts are symbols of an age when men like you believed they could own the world. They are the costume of empire, the disguise of colonial rule. You wear them like crowns, believing they grant you wisdom, but they only reveal your foolishness. In Africa, justice has no need to dress itself up in the hair of dead animals. Justice here walks barefoot, feels the soil beneath its feet, looks its people in the eyes, and speaks the truth without hiding behind costume or tradition stolen from another time. Our justice is in the hands of the farmer who refuses to sell his land to a foreign company. That farmer is not educated in your universities. He has no degrees hanging on his walls. He cannot quote your philosophers or your legal scholars, but he knows something far more powerful. He knows that the land is life. He knows that to sell it is to sell the breath of his children, the future of his community, the soul of his ancestors. You cannot bribe that kind of knowledge. You cannot intimidate it with threats. You cannot drown it in legal jargon. That farmer standing in his field with a hoe in his hand is a greater defender of justice than all your courts combined. He will not bend. And when you come for him with contracts and promises of wealth, he will send you away with the same answer his fathers gave before him. This land is not mine to sell. It belongs to those who will come after me. Our justice is in the fists of the young man who refuses to join the army of an oppressor. That young man is not a soldier by training, but he is a warrior by spirit. He knows that to wear the uniform you offer is to carry the flag of his own subjugation. He knows that your wars are not his wars, that your enemies are not his enemies, that your victories will never be his victories. And so, when you try to conscript him, to lure him with pay, to promise him a seat at the table, he will look you in the eye and say, I will fight, but not for you. I will fight for my people. I will fight for my land. I will fight for the right to wake up tomorrow free. That defiance is justice, Judge Thomas, and no courtroom on earth can prosecute it. Our justice is in the voice of the mother who tells her child that he was born free and will die free. She does not read this from a law book. She does not need a constitution to validate her words. She carries this truth in her heart, in her bones, in the stories her grandmother told her under the moonlight. This mother has seen the world try to cage her people. She has seen soldiers march through her village. She has seen the hunger of famine and the cold eyes of men who came to take what was not theirs. But through it all, she has kept that one truth alive, that her child belongs to no master, to no court, to no empire. When she says you are free, she is writing a law greater than any you have ever passed, one written in the soul, one enforced not by police but by the unbreakable will of a people. That is the justice you cannot touch, Judge Thomas. That is the justice your arrest warrants cannot chain. You can send 1,000 soldiers, you can send 1,000 papers, you can send 1,000 threats. It will make no difference, because the justice we speak of is not written down. It lives in our daily acts, in the choices we make, in the refusal to bow. You cannot lock it away because it is not a man, not a building, not a government. It is a spirit that moves from one generation to the next, untouched by your decrees. This justice will outlive your court, your empire, and your name. Long after your court has been reduced to ruins, long after your empire has been reduced to a chapter in history books, long after your name has been forgotten except as a cautionary tale, this justice will still be here. It will be in the calloused hands of the farmers who plant seeds in the same soil their ancestors defended. It will be in the eyes of children who walk to school without fear of soldiers. It will be in the songs sung by old women at the market, songs that speak of victory over those who came with chains. And let me tell you something, Judge Thomas. The more you try to destroy this justice, the stronger it becomes. Every time you arrest a leader, another rises. Every time you silence a voice, 100 more begin to speak. Every time you burn a village, the survivors rebuild it with stronger walls. You cannot kill what you cannot see, and you cannot see the roots of this justice because they run too deep. They run through the blood of our martyrs, through the sweat of our workers, through the dreams of our youth. Your justice is fragile, Judge Thomas, because it depends on obedience. Ours is indestructible because it depends on defiance. Yours requires the fear of punishment. Ours requires only the memory of oppression. Yours is guarded by police. Ours is guarded by the people themselves. You can lose yours with the stroke of a pen. Ours can only be lost if we forget who we are, and that will never happen again. So keep your paper, keep your court, keep your titles and your robes. We will keep our land, our dignity, and our freedom. And when the day comes that your court collapses under the weight of its own lies, do not expect us to mourn. We will not send flowers to your funeral. We will not write tributes to your memory. We will dance in the streets, not because we celebrate the fall of a man, but because we celebrate the triumph of a truth you could never understand. And in that celebration, there will be no mention of Judge Thomas. There will be no mention of your arrest warrant. You will be a footnote, a forgotten chapter in the story of a people who refused to kneel. The only names remembered will be those of the farmers, the young men, the mothers, the ordinary Africans who stood taller than your court, who spoke louder than your gavel, who carried justice not in their pockets, but in their souls. This is why you will fail, not because I am strong, but because my people are stronger than your entire system. Not because I am fearless, but because fear has no place left to live in Africa. Not because I am a leader, but because I am one among millions who have woken up to the truth that we owe you nothing, not our obedience, not our respect, not even our attention. You are an echo of a past we have already buried, and we will not dig it up for your amusement. So keep your paper, Judge Thomas. Frame it, hang it in your office, show it to your friends. But remember that while you sit there admiring your signature, Africa is moving. Africa is building. Africa is rising. And one day soon, when you look out your window and realize the world has changed without you, you will understand what I am telling you now. Your court is not the center of the world, and your law is not the measure of justice. Our justice is not yours to give, and it is not yours to take. It is ours. It has always been ours, and it will be ours forever. Judge Thomas, into the shadowed hands that guide your pen, let me end this with clarity so there is no room for misunderstanding. You may have thought this was about me. It is not. You may have believed that by targeting me, you are striking at the heart of this movement. You are not. You are not fighting a man. You are confronting a tide. And tides do not negotiate with rocks in their path. They break them, they erode them, they swallow them whole. You sit in your chambers believing you're the architect of order, but you are only an instrument, a mouthpiece for powers too cowardly to show their own faces. You sign their papers, you echo their decrees, you dress their ambitions in the language of law and justice. But make no mistake, you are the robe, not the ruler. Without their whispers in your ear, you are nothing more than a man in a costume, holding a hammer and pretending it is a sword. To your handlers, those in the embassies, the boardrooms, and the intelligence offices, understand this. Africa is not yours to manage. We are not your laboratory, your extraction site, your military playground. You think you can manipulate events here like pieces on a chessboard, removing leaders who disobey and installing puppets who will sign away our future. You think you can disguise your exploitation behind your NGOs, your development projects, your court rulings, but we see you. Every African who has watched their resources vanish while foreign companies grow fat sees you. Every community displaced by your mining projects sees you. Every child who drinks from a poisoned river sees you, and we will not forgive. You believe history is on your side. You cling to the illusion that the structures you built will last forever. But history is not written in marble courtrooms. It is written in the blood and sweat of people who refuse to surrender. And history has already turned against you. You should know that every move you make now only fuels the fire you claim to fear. Your warrant has become a banner of resistance. Your threats have become our rallying cries. Your name, Judge Thomas, is now synonymous with the arrogance of those who think they can police the free. Your handlers should know that their strategy has failed. They have not weakened Africa. They have exposed themselves. So here is my final word to you and those you serve. We are not coming to your court, but your court will one day come to ours. And when it does, you will find no wigs, no robes, no empty rituals. Only the plain, unvarnished truth of your crimes, and the judgment of a people who have risen beyond your reach. When that day comes, do not ask for mercy, you showed none. Do not ask for understanding, you earned none. And do not expect your titles to protect you. They will be stripped away, and you will stand naked before the verdict of history. And history, Judge Thomas has already decided, you have lost. You have started something you cannot finish, Judge Thomas, and in the pages of history, when they write of this moment, they will not remember your warrant. They will not remember your court. They will remember that an African stood up, looked the empire in the eye, and said, "No more." And from that day, the world was never the same.